Hello, Alexi, everybody. Okay, now let's sit. Hi, Rosie. Thank you all for coming. We're still waiting for some students, but to be respectful of your time, we'll go ahead and get started. We do have a lot of amazing food here. So while it's warm, we should all go ahead and get started and eat. But before we eat, I want to invite my coworker Hal to come up and say a quick prayer for the food.
Please join me for just a brief moment of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful sun-filled day here in Inupiaq as we come together as a campus and a community to celebrate this special week of Inupiaq. Please be with us this evening as we partake of this wonderful food and then also get to share in the terrific talents of our many community members through the Inupiaq Spring Arts Festival. We ask that you be with all of our presenters tonight and that you fill this room with warmth and engagement for everybody present and those online. With all these things we ask of you, our Lord. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. So before you guys go and get food, I want to invite our INU 158, the traditional and contemporary native food preparation class students up. They have created and made some very delicious foods. So it's a really small class, and that's very typical for some of our classes here at Inupiaq. So there's 3 students in our cooking class, so come. And Clarissa, I saw her somewhere. I'll grab it. But you guys can introduce yourself and just talk about the class.
My name is Inupiaq. My name is Eunice Munden. Pickled mustard and Jeff. Jelly. And we also need chocolate flavor.
So in the over here in the classroom, we have a huge pot of niveluk soup. So in the class, they got to learn how to alibak cut and cook the niveluk from start to finish. So there's a whole pot of soup in there. There's also beluga that they cut up, and so that we have some cooked beluga in there. So they showed some of the things that they created in the class. Before it melts, this Inupiaq sorbet, they're going to put some in cups. So you guys better get a cup before it runs out. So they'll be in this classroom over here and putting some in cups. So go ahead and get your food. I'll play a video. So when you guys start to come back, I'll play a video. So go ahead.
Elders first.
I just saw Clarissa where you go again. Oh, Clarissa, come on. want to introduce yourself?
This is Ming. She's a visitor from LA and she's trying our food for the first time.
Boiled Inupiaq, as well as some donuts and some other foods that they made.
There's also some Inupiaq cinnamon rolls, fresh bread. There's also tutu, so unison curry chop. They boiled some caribou meat. There's also some other desserts. And I hope you guys enjoy. And I apologize for those who are on Zoom. I wish you guys were here in person.
Did you already eat?
Not yet.
No. Oh, do I need to bring everything here? My mask and.
Yeah, your mask, your wooden one.
I haven't money on Damien.
Is everybody on Zoom okay? You guys can hear us very good.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I found wasabi.
Oh, yay. Oh, Clarissa, there's I have ulu holders. You could put it on the ulu holder. Yeah. They're this.
Yeah. I still need to make indents. Is it too big? No.
Yeah, so this is like, if you smell it, they make seal oil, there's I was gonna say earlier, if they still remember making you walk down that road. But it was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
They're very great.
Good to get out.
I need, oh, so
Oh, that's all good. It's the 3 second rule.
I'm not sure what they made. Oh, like I ain't getting anything. Yeah. Oh, you gotta hit this, yeah. Did you break it? I took a Oh, wow, look at these masks.
Aren't they amazing? They're just-
I'm like, I got 15 minutes to eat.
But I'm here, I'm taking classes too. Oh my gosh, that's. So you guys both take the same stuff?
Very good. Very nice.
This one, hi.
Take some kimchi from San Luis.
I was told to give her chips and salsa to top of it.
I can do both though.
Whenever I go there, I say, "Here's some kimchi from San Luis." I was like, what? It's got just the kimchi.
Okay. Yeah, nobody's there yet. Oh, you got that before, so Holly. Oh, wait, there you
Hi, good to see you.
No, I'm not a rep.
I have.
There you are.
Hello.
You guys some of our
All right, what you gonna get? Here's Bob, little Bob. Everything's all good. No. Paula's here. How nice. Yeah, it's so
When was her birthday? One month.
Hi, Inupiaq. Are we on mute? Good to see you. And then.
Okay.
The survey is. That's delicious. This is called fusion. Traditional. Oh my God. That's probably the best survey I've ever had. The wailer. How long did it take to make the ice cream? I mean, it's really quick. Yeah. It was so good.
Just thought while you guys were eating, I'd share that video to show a little bit about Inupiaq studies this semester. So you saw a lot of amazing things from cooking, from our cooking class to the sewing classes to our art classes. So it's really awesome that our students are getting a lot of hands-on, and that's how a lot of us learn, is very hands-on. So we'll just kind of keep moving forward. So I'll ask the kulak carving class to come up. We have some students on Zoom. And we also have some students in person. So the two students on Zoom, we have Inupiaq and is Wes. Wes, are you on? Okay, so I think it's just you, Inupiaq. So, Inupiaq, you can go ahead and get your clip, and he is going to do a lighting demonstration.
Yes, it's outside, it's in the other room. I've got to go out there. It's going to take me just a minute.
Okay. So the clip carving students, is there anybody? I know there's Mary. Tracy, Katie.
What are you doing?
Is Christine here? Okay. So you guys can come up and introduce yourself and talk about your clip, and you can show it. And so we have for the Zoom students so they can see there's the camera.
I'm Tracy and I carved the whalebone right for my pillow.
I'm Kiwi and I made a small simple one.
I'm Mary. This is the clay one I made. It has beluga oil, ptarmigan feathers, and clay from down the coast. And I'm carving these, but not finished there, so it's still.
A little bit about Kunlip. So they, back then, were used for survival, for heat, cooking, for light, in the sod homes. Today, they're more of survival in a cultural sense, so keeping our culture alive, acknowledging our elders when we light it. So as Inupiaq lights his, it will be in acknowledgement of our elders and those who came before us. So let me see if I can make him the spotlight. Okay, so as you can see, he has that's the kulak he carved this semester, and I just want to give him a shout out because I had mailed it and it actually broke in half. So by the time he got it, he worked with what he had, and I'll allow him to talk about what he made. So Inupiaq, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you. You can introduce yourself and talk about your kulak.
Inupiaq Singra Inupiaq. And so carving is very, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm used to it. It's quite because it did break, and so it's on a little bit of an angle, and I've got a carving on top. It's probably hard to see here, of a Inupiaq seal, a bearded seal. The two eyes on top and the tail on the bottom. And it does have a wick ledge, but it's pretty small, but it looks like it's working. I had to prop the end up a little bit because the oil was coming out the bottom side because it's not level. But it was a very fun project, and I'm very happy to have taken this class and got a chance to do this this carving again. Very neat.
I also want to give him another shout out because Inupiaq, he's all the way in Oklahoma, and he's been taking Inupiaq studies classes for a number of years, and it's always nice to have him each semester. So, Inupiaq and Inupiaq. Let's give our Kundak students a round of applause. All right, so moving right along, we have Joni Edwardson, and she is teaching again this semester. I'll let her explain what she's teaching and have her students come up.
Rather than watching.
Good evening, I'm Joni Edwardson. I'm currently teaching the making class. This is our second time around teaching this class within Selvig. And I believe we have 2 students here with their projects, Lucinda and Tracy, and we have several others that couldn't make it. But what we're learning is pretty much from start to finish, starting from the uruk skin, scraping the fur, cutting them out, soaking them, crimping. I mean, the whole process of making kamiks, sewing the bodies, attaching them, everything that goes with it. So we'll show you the progress. They're almost finished, but not quite. So getting there, Tracy. So she's got it tacked, and she's currently attaching the body to the hard bottom right now.
Hi, I'm Lucinda. I am currently attaching the body to. I do have to say the beadwork is not mine, but I attached it to the body here. This is what it'll look like. So this is what it'll look like. I tacked it. I'm currently sewing it together right now. I'm just starting to on the finishing product. We'll get your picture. We'll get your pictures.
Great. Let's give our
Coming down.
I just wanted to say that, so the first day of registration was in November, and for Joni's class, the first 2 hours, her class was completely full back in November for this spring. So it just shows the need for her class, and everybody wants to take her class, so it's really exciting that we have her. Like she mentioned, this is her second semester teaching, and so we really appreciate you, Joni.
And we'll have another class.
Yes, oh yes, and she'll be teaching again in the fall time, so if you want to apply for a class, you better be the first 30 minutes.
all right.
So let's keep moving forward. We do have a new class, it's Introduction to Driftwood Carving. And so I'll ask my students to come up. And the reason why this class had come up, so Natasha, Ikala, and Ita and I, we had the amazing opportunity to go to Inupiaq Pass to work with Louisa Kukenak Riley. And she had taught us the whole process of how to make a caribou skin mask, from where you carve, you have driftwood, a certain type of driftwood that you find on the beach here, and you carve it into a face. And then you take that face and you process tutu skin, so caribou skin, and you put that caribou skin over and you make a face mask. So this is one of the grants that we had. It was one of our goals. And so for this class, it was just carving the driftwood mold. So who else do we have? Clarissa? Oh, okay, Clarissa's coming, and we also have, so you can introduce yourself and you have your, okay, and just show off your amazing.
Jerica, you want to switch your camera to the laptop?
Oh, okay. Which one of the cameras?
Hi, my name is Brandon Cooper. And I enrolled into with carving. And this is how far I've come.
Do you have your little ones that you carve? Okay. So they had two different projects with the same tree. So basically, when you go on the beach, you find different types of driftwood. So the one he just showed, that's cottonwood, and it's like a big tree. It's huge. So they also were to carve tinier, much smaller pieces, which is also part of the cottonwood tree, but it's the bark. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, it's okay. So they're showing the big cottonwood from the inner part of the tree.
So we had to use an axe. And then what kind of knife was it? Exacto knife, or you could use any tool, any carving tool that you want to use. And then you drill holes. I made another mask, but I used the recycled doll head, so. I was just teasing the little girl because she had a doll earlier. But anyway, this is the larger portion. You drill holes to where you want to put the skin, the caribou skin, and then you dye your skin after it dries, overnight. And then I haven't tested this one out yet. I had difficulty trying to put the holes through, but they're done. And it's really lightweight. And so once you put the skin over the caribou skin, you take the hair off, and then you soak the caribou skin in either tea, or you can use any other natural dyes. Lisa writing, I think she uses Lipton tea or whatever tea is that. Red rose, or there's alderwood, alderwood dye, and then it's fine. Which is another dye, which is okay, from the river, I think it's like Woodslip or from Hope. And then after you soak it for a little while, maybe 20 minutes or so, and then you put it over your mask. Preferred mask, either the plastic recycled doll head, and then, or you could use a wood, cotton wood, and then you sew in the indents that you want to make. Dry overnight, and then you start getting your pieces together and start sewing it together with scraps for the eyebrows, the lips, the eyelashes, and then what we used for the eyelashes, I think, was either caribou scraps, calf skin, or another one is seal skin, which is really nice.
So we also have Inupiaq, who is on Zoom as well. So Inupiaq, do you have yours handy?
I do. So this is what mine look like. It was pretty challenging. I enjoyed it. I think the biggest problem I had, I'll turn it around. The biggest problem I had was the bark. When I took the bark, after soaking the wood, taking the bark off, the tool I used made these kind of gashes in here. And so it took quite a while to sand that down or smooth it down. There's still a little bit of unevenness in there, I would say. And then I did drill the holes. They seemed to go okay, I think. But when the wood dried, it's much better than when it was wet working with it. I also have the other bark piece, if you'd like to see it. I didn't spend probably enough time to really polish this, but I tried to make a canoe out of it, or a kayak, sorry. But the wood had such, or the bark had such beautiful patterns to it here. To me, it looked like sandstone rock. So I left that on, and it's kind of like the kayak is on land. That's how I did it. And it has a reddish tint to it, which is quite nice, I think. So that's the small piece. And I enjoyed this part too. Kind of.
We also had more students. We had Cherish Ingerbretson from Nome, Sitnastock region. So she finished up her projects, but she's not on the call today. And I'm trying to, my computer's kind of frozen, so I can't. Just to show some of the other projects, let me see if I can pull it open. And it was really a lot of documentation that we did when we were in Inupiaq Pass. And we're so grateful for Hannah for teaching us everything that she knows about carving the driftwood and teaching us what type of wood. Because, I've been on the beach my whole life and I had no idea that you could use these different types of wood for carving masks. And Louisa Pekena is one of the last people in Inupiaq Pass to actively practice how to make caribou skin masks. And so it's an honor to receive that knowledge from her. And I mentioned that we documented it, so it's all in video footage. And using that footage and also what we have learned, we're able to pass on that knowledge to our students. So it's really awesome to give them that opportunity to utilize the resources from the land and the ocean that's right next to us. So the smaller the bark, so this one right here in the center is Cherish Ingerbretson. Her Inupiaq name is Meru, and she created it's like a ice scratcher for seals. So I had them look at some artifacts and try to recreate as an opportunity or an option. The one on the top right here is her cottonwood. I don't know if you can see it okay, but yeah, so that was that class, and more classes like that to come. So we'll go ahead and give a round of applause to our driftwood carving students. Now we will move on to our Inuit storytelling class. And I wanted to do something different this semester and kind of normalize a lot of our traditional stories. And by that, they're going to be reading from the Nunavut Inupiaq book, and it's Nunavut stories from Inupiaq Pass. So Elijah Kukinya and Simon Pemna, they told these stories and they learned from their elders before them. So I'll have the students that are here in person to come on up and then introduce yourself before you read your pages.
Hey, my name is Brett Rich. I'm originally from Tuscany, Alaska, and I'll be reading about the Northern Lights. I'll go ahead and read it.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna be reading it right now. And I just bought this book from the Heritage Building right over there. And so they got those. You guys wanted to read more of these yourself? All right, Northern Lights by Elijah Kenya. Now I shall tell Cousin Nick's story about the Northern Lights. Up there, a story made about one of the people living here a long time ago. A story about them. A long time ago, there were people living in a big village, probably here at the head of the Killick River. They used to remove their children's teeth when a tooth became loose. A child's teeth would become loose when the child was 5 years old. Then they used to remove the child's teeth, or when they were 4 years old. Sorry, I'm getting lost here. The children's teeth would become loose, their milk teeth. They used to remove the teeth when they became loose. Among the people living in the big village, there was a girl. Her teeth, she was 4 years old, and one tooth had become loose. But her parents didn't pay attention to that tooth, a canine tooth. So they didn't remove it. Although all the people watched their children remove their teeth, the parents of that girl didn't watch their daughter and one tooth of hers, her canine tooth. Then it wasn't loose anymore. Then they were unable to do anything about it, for there were no white men around. So when it tightened, they left it there. That woman grew up. Her canine tooth came out through her upper lip. When she got married and became able to work, she used it to twist her thread, tying the sinews to her canine tooth. When she made length of sewing thread, she always tied them on used her tooth to twist them off. Those people used to hunt and trap, setting snares for caribou and hunting in kayaks. And with corals, they made a living in every possible way. And that woman set out with her child on her back. While she was busy putting the snares in order, having left her husband behind, that was how they lived. She went to the ptarmigan snares. As she was taking her snares and what she had caught, as was removing the snare from the teeth from the 10th ptarmigan, suddenly a hot, feverish feeling came over her. She suddenly felt hot. Just as when we get a fever, the fever came over her as she was taking the 10th ptarmigan. She made holes in their wings with a little awl of marrow bone, and she had a thong for them, stabbing them with between the wings and the bones. She packed them under the child on her back. When the fever suddenly came over her, she thought, "What's happening to me?" Just as she was about to pack up her ptarmigans, the Northern Lights got her. The Northern Lights got her and rose with her. The Northern Lights had many people who played football. They played football with a human head that smiled whenever they kicked it. There were many kinds and used to play. The Northern Lights scooped her up from there. They took that woman to be one of them. When her relatives followed her tracks to the snare, having become worried about her at one of her snares, the 10th one, her tracks ended. Sometime afterward, a very long time afterward, a man was checking the snares One of those people, a man, taking the ptarmigan he pierced them in the same way in the wing and packed them, using a little all of marrow bone. While he was doing this, a hot feeling all of a sudden came over him. As he was getting the fever, he thought, how strange, what's happening to me? And looked upward. Look, the northern lights were just about to seize him. Then, suddenly recognizing that woman with their pack of 10 ptarmigans, with the sinew twisting too. Oh, there's that woman right there. He gave a start to that, recognizing that one of the tooth looked like a little horn to twist on. Too bad that both of us, I and my kinswoman with the twisted tooth, should be taken up there in the sky. If they take me, our people will have no one to tell about us, he thought with apprehension, becoming anxious. He got into the dirt gathered by the wind, following on his belly into a little hollow in the wind gathering dirt. When the football players had come up upon him unaware, but he recognized it and recognized the woman with the sinew twisting tooth. He abruptly crouched down into the dirt. They felt regret right away. Alas, we didn't get that one. We let him get stuck in the dirt, they said. That woman burst out. Alas, you don't hold onto the only one I'd be happy with. So the woman said, but he thought, if both of us are taken, my kinswoman and I, our people won't know what has become of us. So for me, let me not be taken. I'll tell you about the kinswoman of mine, to her relatives, to her siblings, and her husband, telling them that I have seen her. And the woman shouting, alas, becoming inaudible, alas, you don't hold onto the only one I'd be happy with. She shouted, but the man too wanted to be safe and report back. He wanted to return to his relatives in order to tell the real story of the one with the sinew twisting tooth. But the northern lights were gone. He looked for her after the northern lights had disappeared. Then he started homeward with his ptarmigan packed on his back. Then he arrived with someone to tell. I've seen the kinswoman of mine. The northern lights took her, and they also have a human head for football. They always play football with that human head, and it smiles whenever they kick it. That's how they have fun. The northern lights took the kinswoman of mine away. They took possession of her. I was on the point of being taken too, but I really wanted to tell the story about her. I wanted to return to you and really report on her. To avoid being taken, I had to hide in the dirt gathering by the wind. That's the end of the story.
Good evening. My name is Marie Ali Stackhouse, and before I read my story, I'm going to pass around a comic that my husband and I made. My classmate Lisa is going to be reading this story, The Weepers, but this was a project that I worked with my husband, who is a cartoonist and an illustrator. We read the short story, The Weepers, and you'll hear that in a minute or two. But I wanted to pass around the comic just for all of you to take a look. I wish I had more copies, but we'll just pass this one around. The story I'm reading is The One Who Had the Daylight by Elijah Kakunya. Our first ancestors among the Inupiaq, it is said, had a world without daylight, like our night now. The people's chief had two lights, a big bright one and a not so bright one. When the one who had the daylight left with one of his lights, the people used to follow him, sometimes to go hunting. When they gathered wood, they tested it by licking the dry wood and the green wood. When it stuck to their tongues, they didn't use it. When it didn't stick, they used it as firewood. They used to follow those who had the daylight when they went out for firewood or for meat. The chief never lent it out. Only his daughter and wife could use it. Those people had a hard time looking for things in the dark, such as when they were trying to find rocks for heating. Once the daughter went to fetch water, taking along the dimmer light. Raven was with those people, and he turned into a piece of down, for he had decided to try to make daylight. As soon as she brought out that light, the other woman went to fetch water too. The women waited for her to fill her wooden bucket, circling her to get water too. When the woman had filled her bucket, she wanted to drink. When she filled her dipper, she saw a piece of down in it. Blowing at the down, she tipped the dipper until it was empty. When she would fill the dipper and start to drink, it would already have down in it. She tipped it again, but the down was there again. So she drank it while it was in her dipper, drinking down together with the water. Then the other women filled their buckets, and she waited for them. As soon as she had him in her mouth, Raven entered her womb. Then the woman became pregnant with a fatherless child. Without her knowing it, the baby was conceived. She became pregnant and gave birth to a boy. When his daughter had the fatherless baby, the owner of Daylight became very fond of his little grandchild. Being very fond of his grandchild, the grandfather used to hold him on his lap. When he grew up and became able to talk, the baby started to cry, wanting to play with the Daylight. Then the grandfather, let him play with the dimmer light. And when he was through playing, the child gave it back to his grandfather. When he became able to play outdoors, he started to cry again, wanting to play outdoors. The grandfather at first refused, but then he gave the light to his little grandchild since he was fond of him. He took it out and tried to burst it. When he tried to burst it, it would give off flashes of light. Finally, trying again, he managed to burst it. Daylight burst upon the whole world. Then the chief, the owner of the Daylight, said, "There will always be daylight, and there will always be night too." And so then we had daylight. Those people started to hunt immediately. The end.
Hi, good evening. I am Lisa Lingada. So I'm taking Inupiaq 2, Innu 2 and 3 Inuit storytelling. So just like what my classmate said earlier, so I'll be reading The Weepers by Elijah Kakinian. This is Inupiaq Sana's story, which I heard when he told me stories, that Inupiaq Sana was a pretty old man who had been a preacher at the time he told it. Now then, I shall tell this story from Herschel Island. At that time, it is said, a long time ago, before our earth turned over, there lived some people in the east who had their own way of living. Before it was turned over then, there were people who lived before the world became like ours. Before we got this new world of ours, they lived then, at that time, in that former world of theirs, busy hunting seals. Whether they were hunting other game, I don't know, but he said that they were living on seal, on fish and seal. At that time, our earth, a long time ago, those weepers were said to be turned over. At that time, before they had Christianity, they used to meet these people on the ocean when they went out to hunt, because they had a sort of village. Those ancient forefathers of Inupiaq Sana became acquainted with them. When a person was about to encounter those weepers, the weepers used to fall on their faces, lest their eyes be seen. For they had swollen faces from weeping so much. So it is said, when a person was about to meet one dragging a seal or a hunter out for something, the weeper would always fall on his face. The people never saw their faces. A weeper never looked up. The people never tried to make him look up either. They used to talk to a weeper as he lay on his face. For some of them knew them and could recognize them. Those weepers would sometimes disappear and land there in the east. And when they were out for something on the ocean, they sometimes met people. When a person met him, the weeper would fall on his face, lest his face be seen. For those weepers were ashamed of their faces. That's the end of the story I got from Inupiaq.
Good evening, everybody. This is Clarissa again, Clarissa Panangona. And my story title is The Berry Pickers, or the Inupiaq is Aserra Toa. And this is another story that's retold to my understanding by Elijah Pequeña, because I found another book which was also written. His book was, for Elijah Pequeña's book was processed in 1987, and there was another book, so I was kind of confused which one to read. But the book that I think it's the same as their book, but there was another book, like I mentioned, it was processed in 1973, and these are all retold stories, legends, and Inupiaq is legends, stories, retold, and beliefs, or whatever you want to call them. And this one that was processed in 1973 was William A. Aquino, and he was from, we weren't really people that were in one place. We would follow, we were like foragers. Like this village is coastal, so whaling is a lot of, it prospered here. And that's what we did here. And then Inupiaq would have caribou. And this is what the story is about, caribou. And Elijah Pequeña was from Inupiaq, and he's also Inupiaq. In the old times, it is said the caribou had teeth, canine teeth, like wolves. Then one time there were many women out picking berries, and when the caribou saw the people, they attacked them. While the people were under attack, a caribou mauled a woman's child beside her. And the caribou that had mauled him then attacked the woman. At that, the woman made it bite into some of the berries she had picked, and so caused it to lose its teeth. She made them fall out. So the roof of the caribou's mouth has spots. The color of the berries and the lower teeth are left so that it can eat. So it was that she made it eat sour cranberries, and so that its teeth would fall out. And I'm sorry, I lost my spot. I'm sorry, I don't have the rest of the story. Can I borrow your book? That's it? That's it. That was the end of the story, but I could also read it in Inupiaq if you want me to.
I thought there was more because the other book had a different version.
The other book that was by William Aquino. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
students on Zoom, so we'll go ahead and go over to Sean Rice.
Oop, all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Rice, and my story tonight is Pacific Loon and Raven, told by Simon Pennick. A long time ago, it is said Loon and Raven had white feathers, both of them. And Loon said to his partner, "Now let's decorate each other. If we decorate our parkas, it might make them beautiful." So he took pieces of charcoal and said, "Partner, go on and decorate my parka first, and do your very best to make it nice." Having been told this, Raven immediately started painting Loon's back with charcoal. When he had finished painting him, he said, "Well, partner, now go on and decorate me as well as he can, and do a nice job of decorating me." Then Loon told Raven to close his eyes. When he had his eyes closed, he, Loon, decorated him and made him nice. But when it became apparent that he was painting him all over, he said, "Partner, by no means open your eyes. I'll tell you when to open your eyes." Finally, he painted him all over with the charcoal and made him quite black, made him charcoal colored all over. And when he had painted him, he couldn't help laughing and betraying himself. Raven, it is said, immediately opened his eyes and started looking at himself over. And looked, he had become black all over. The Raven took some ashes from the fire and tried to fling them at the Loon before the Loon dived. Or before he did, the Loon dived. He flung ashes at the top of his head, and the top of Loon's head came to look like ashes where he was hit. Loon hurried down into the water, and there was no way Raven could get at him because Raven's claws are useless in the water. That's how they became like that from then on. And that's the end of the story.
Our next book, Sean, we'll go to Lucia.
Hi, so I'm Lucia Johnston. I'm from Barrow. The story I'm going to read is A Tall Twitch by Elijah Kakinya. So now I should tell about the Ataltwitch Sky People, a story a very long ago told to me by Inupiaq about the strangers who visited Inupiaq's aunt with dogs and a sled. So Inupiaq is Elijah Kakinya's wife's grandfather. Now that people, he said, Inupiaq's aunt and her husband lived down there at Kayavik in the old way. They had no mental implements, but their weapons were arrows and bows, and they lived by snaring. In the summer, the husband could use his kayak as he moved to Chandler Lake. And in the winter, they used to go down to Kayavik to snare caribou, to hunt caribou. Down there, they sometimes built a sod house when winter came and their relatives stayed in the same area. When they stayed around here at Puvlatuk and Ayanituk Creek, right here at the summit of Unuktivik Pass and at Tuluvuk and in Unuktiktuak Valley. And down there, a little farther down than Kayavuk. But then once more, they were alone. Iunikpuk's aunt and her husband with their children. Living like that, they had visitors, some relatives of theirs, so they thought. But then the people who came seemed different. They did not know where they came from. They did not recognize them. Their clothes were different. They had nice decorations and big ruffs of wolverine and wolf fur, big parka skirts, nice boots with white stripes in front. So their visitors looked not at all poor. When they had stopped their sled there, they took out of it big pieces of belly meat briskets, ribs, and rendered marrow for food, and having entered the couple's hut, they got ready to eat. The couple talked to their visitors, but they did not hear. They shouted to them as loudly as they could, but they did not even hear. They finally listened a little, but they were not aware of humans because they were not of their kind. Then she said to her husband, "Listen, our visitors are probably a Talclitch." She said to her husband, "Yes, no doubt," her husband answered. "Yes, no doubt, they're probably a Talclitch." Having said that they were probably a Talclitch, the wife said, "In former time, too, it said when they were visited by a Talclitch, they would smear their sleds with excrement and sour urine. In that way, it said, they made their sleds impossible to budge when they smeared them." Having talked it over, they said, "Well then, let's go and smear them with excrement and urine from our dogs. Let's smear them with the dog's urine or with our own." They agreed, and believing that they were being visited by a Talflich and talking about it, they went out while those people were eating in the hut. They went out and took excrement and smeared the sled on the front part, or else along the sides. The sled was different. There is no such sled in this country, and their dogs had halted there. After smearing it with excrement and urine, they went into those strangers. They talked to them again, shouting, but they did not hear. They were just busy talking to each other and eating their own food. When they had finished eating, they said, "Now let's go out and start." When they had said that and had gone out, the two followed them. They put on their side tow lines and drag lines and tried to leave, making their dogs get up. They hollered to the dogs and pulled as hard as they could themselves too, but they couldn't budge their sled. Then the two said, "Apparently we are visited by a Talflich." The couple then realized that yes, they were undoubtedly real. Their dogs pulled as hard as they could. They themselves shouted, "Coo," and urged them on and pulled with all their strength. The dogs did their utmost. They themselves did their utmost and tried to shake their sled, but they couldn't budge it. Then, not wanting to leave their dogs, they cut the dogs' traces, and removing their side tow lines, they took off with just their dogs and drag lines. And as they started to walk along on the ground, they rose from the ground. Then the couple knew for sure. Apparently, we were visited by a Talclich. Now we'll get wolf skins and wolverine skins and furs, skins of caribou and sheep. The two were happy for what they got, for the Talclich would never come back and wouldn't be able to budge them. Inupiaq's aunt and her husband got them, and she let her nephew Inupiaq have the story. That's the end of the story.
We'll go over to Wes.
Oh, my mic's already on. Okay. Good evening. My name is Wes. Uvanga Ataga Akayatak, Hisagling Milgurunga. I'm from Anchorage. My folks are from Nome and Kotzebue area. All right, let's get into my story. Raven and His Brothers-in-Law by Simon Panayak. Once it is said Raven had joined some people as an in-law, having married a girl who didn't want a husband. So he used to hunt every day, or rather, he used to go out to hunt. What he did, you see, was to get holes in the soles of his boots at small cliffs by rubbing his boots back and forth on small cliffs, and then he went home. His brothers-in-law used to ask him, "Have you been far away today?" "Yeah, I've been far away, but I didn't find any game this time either." Finally, one of his brothers-in-law wanted to find out. The next day, the brother-in-law sneaked along after him. He saw Raven heading toward the small cliffs. Secretly, he watched him. Raven was wearing the soles of his boots, threw on the rocks the whole day long. Then the brother-in-law went home. Finally, his brothers-in-law found out about him. Then they cast out their brother-in-law, who was married to the girl who didn't want a husband. When he had been cast out, he began to cry for a strong northwest wind, so that his brothers-in-law would be frozen to death. Now then, I, wind up there, I. When he cried out for it, a strong northwest wind rose and all his brothers-in-law froze to death. From that time on, the northwest wind began to freeze people to death. That's the story of Raven and his brothers-in-law.
We'll go to Lucinda. Lucinda? Okay, we'll go to Sean Hales.
She can't unmute.
Oh. Oh no.
Would you like me to go or wait for Lucinda?
You can go ahead while she figures out her mic.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sean Hales. I'm from Kodiak, and I'll be reading The Mammoth by Elijah Kakinya. Some Inupiaq were living in a village. Now there was a hunter in the village. There were many hunters, but among them was one who used to go hunting by himself. Once that hunter heard a voice up in the air, like a big thing barking up there, and he saw that it was a big dog chasing a mammoth. The hunter became frightened and buried himself in the snow. There were people too following it. The owners of that big dog were following behind. But the hunter was hidden. With its big tongue, the dog hit two mountains that were far apart, and the dog and mammoth reached the ground. The big dog quickly came upon the mammoth when it sank into the ground. The big dog sank into the ground too. And those people touched the ground too, just after the two of them. Passing beside the one hidden in the snow, the last of them said to him, "Look, they're about to get it. Why don't you watch?" They had almost caught the mammoth, which was falling on its brow. Having finally caught up with it, the big dog mauled and killed it. Then the hunters who had buried himself in the snow went behind the leaders, placed himself beside one of them, and began to watch. Their big dog was hot and panting beside them. Then they cut up the mammoth. The hunter watched as they cut it to pieces. Then they asked him to get some wood while they were busy butchering. He got some very dry wood. Then they started to build a fire with the dry wood, but it wouldn't ignite. Finally, they themselves began gathering wood. Their wood was green and burned immediately. As soon as they blew on it a few times, it burst into flames. Then they could roast meat and eat all of them, giving meat to their big dog too. Then they left, using their big dog to carry the mammoth. They climbed up there with it along their trail. They disappeared into the sky. The hunter was left and went home to his people. He told them about those people. And that is the story of the mammoth.
Thank you, Sean. Lucinda, is your audio working? Okay, it's not working. All right, so we will go over to Calvin.
Hopefully it's you all. Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Nice. So today I'll be reading Messenger Feast at Tuluvok by Elijah Kakinya. Kind of like Wes, I'm up from Anchorage. I'm calling in from Anchorage today at Kisalahovic. So I'll go ahead and get started now. Now I shall tell a story my father told me from long ago, shortly after he was born. Down there at Tuluhuk Lake, shortly after my father was born, they hunted many caribou, spearing them from kayaks. When they had killed so many caribou that they had caribou all along the shore of the Tuluhuk Lake on this side, and had enough to eat for the winter. So Hana told them to stop. Even if they had visitors from downriver, they would not run out. No matter where they had visitors from, they would not run out. They were enough for making dried meat, or if they let them freeze, they could not eat up all the caribou they had killed. After some time, shortly after my father was born, his parents Avik and Kakinyap told a story about him. They had planned to have a messenger feast there. They wanted to have a messenger feast, but could not get messengers to go over the no attack. Then the people tried to put a harness with an eagle's feather hanging from it on each other way, a way of choosing messengers. Two persons who tried to harness each other would pull each other by the hair to avoid being harnessed. They would try to harness anyone, harness him with the eagle feather in order to make him a messenger. Then they got Anali as a messenger, harnessing him with the eagle's feather. Then he said, "Now you have harnessed a messenger for yourselves," and started to cry on, for he was a middle-aged man and did not want at all to be a messenger. When he started to cry, the people fell silent. After a while, the one messenger here was no. From the beginning, he wanted to be a messenger and was not unwilling. And he added, "If he gets 2 wolverines next winter, he says he will be a messenger." Then the shamans, in full agreement, said, "Anyways, he may get nothing, but it's possible." At once the people who feast became happy. They became happy then. Ikilianak and Isatok. The boy Isatok was there also. And there was also that boy Tuluhuk. They were 2 boys not fully yet grown. When later on at Tuluhuk told this Taylor story, I got it. And I became old enough to remember it. Then those 2 messengers went over to Notak to invite people and were coming back with the guests and great number. On the way back, when the messengers came back to Tuluhuk from the summit here, the pass, they had a foot race down to Tuluhuk, the people meeting the guests. Also, the 2 boys, Tuluhuk and Isatok, went along, and Muptiluk's father, Utuktok, was with them too. The fastest runners were Katilirok and Iktuksak, and also Muksak. Katili was also followed but got tired and could not follow anymore. And the Soyak, those were the fastest. Iktuksak and Soyak and Katilirok were the very best runners. Iktuksak's nephew was fast too. But then Iktuksak and his nephew, his mother's older sister's son, began to argue, asking each other, "When are you going to arrive?" And Iktuksak's nephew was left behind because they went fast. Racing from the top of the pass here down past Kanmuma, down there near the goal, there were 4 in the lead, among them Katili. "You are lost," he said to the others, and rushed past them. The tail of his Indian parka standing out straight like a wolf's tail. He ran so fast that he passed them as if he were flying. Then those 3, among them Katilirok and Iktuksak, were left behind. The 2 boys, Tuluhuk and Isatok, were slow when they were running by the summit here, the pass. Unable to take such long strides as the leaders, the Soyak was also with the 2 leaders. Then the 2 boys, who came last, began to catch up with the leaders. They did catch up with the first ones, who had now Katili among them. And Katili fooled these 2 boys who had caught up with the leaders. "They got ahead a long time ago," he said. Being young boys, Tuluhuk and Isatok listened to Katili because they could hardly see those who were first. Then Iktuksak gave up, whipped him with their feathers to make him hurry, but then ran with the message to Tuluhuk. His nephew also came close, but could not move anymore either. They brought Iktuksak back on a sled later, when they heard he couldn't move anymore. The Soyak was the fastest of all, it is said. He didn't even get hot, it is said, nor did he lose the mark painted with charcoal on his forehead. He was better than all the others. It is. When the messenger feast was over, my father was a small boy at the time, and the people were ready to scatter in all different directions. They gave him with that woman, his wife to be, being grateful for the messenger feast he made for them. They gave him a young girl for a wife. He also caught 2 wolverines. That was the reward not got. The other one they paid with caribou skins and calf skins. The one who wanted to be a messenger beforehand. But they did not give him a wife, because he already had one. The story I have told is a rather old one. This is the end of my story. Oh, thanks, y'all.
The last story, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I mentioned, trying to do something different, trying to make our stories normalize and get them out there. So I'll go ahead and invite our next adjunct instructor, Susan Hope.
Oh.
And if your students are here, please come on up.
Student. So. Right. My student Dana, and the last name is Filchi. Right. So, you want to talk about what?
Yeah. So my first project was I made myself a hat. And this is, we figured out that this was pig hide suede that I used, and silver fox, blue fox. And then I lined the inside with some lamb skin. It's nice and warm, it's pretty heavy. Susan helped me with the braiding. I wasn't able to do the 4-way braid. But the rest of it, she helped me, but I did the sewing myself and everything. The hardest part was probably just going through the pig skin with a needle in my hand. It was pretty tough.
But waterproof.
But it's waterproof, so that'll be helpful with like wet snow and things like that when you're walking around. And then with my scraps that I had left over, I made a pair of slippers. I just finished these yesterday. The beadwork is not mine. The beadwork, some women in Shishmaref made these. And so I just didn't have time. We're almost out of time for class and I have to make one more project. So I didn't have time to do the beadwork, but I thought it was pretty, so I added it to my slippers. Yay.
So the class that we have is skin sewing, contemporary and traditional skin sewing. And we start the class off, it's a 15-week course, and we have, we go around the room and then talk to the students about what their personal goals are, because so many of them want to put an isabalik on their parka, or they want to make a whole parka. And so we go around the list, and based on their personal goals, then we come up with a material list that they have to purchase, and then they get started. We do measurements, they make patterns, and I really encourage you to take this class because someday I will retire like someday soon. And so I really, when I was really, really young, right out of college, I remember going to different parts of Alaska and had coffee and tea with elders, and they shared so many things with me. They shared their techniques of sewing, they shared patterns, they shared the better way of doing things, beading techniques. I mean, there was so much that I learned, and I thought to myself, and even when I was still in high school, I was learning how to make pupaks for parkas, and the elderly women who taught me have now passed away. And I'm carrying their knowledge. And I don't even know if you even know how profound that is. I'm going to let that sink in. I can say people's names like Mali Ita. She taught me. I'm wearing what Molly taught me. Elizabeth Patkudak. I'm wearing an Elizabeth Patkudak he taught me. You know, these are profound things that, you know, we carry them when we learn. And so I just want to really encourage you that if you haven't taken a chance to take some of these classes, that you would come join and take the class while we are still here offering it, because these amazing ladies that taught me are no longer here. I mean, they're still alive, but they're a little bit. But just use us. We're here, and I had about 5 students in my class. Some of my students right now, I think there was a family emergency that they had to fly out to. Another one has kids and couldn't be here. Another one, this is probably your bedtime because you gotta get up pretty early in the morning. And so, and then I have, I think there's several others. I think one of them had to fly out for a doctor's appointment. So it's kind of like, this is kind of that hard time to have this cultural fair, because that's when they all, but they some of them had made beautiful atikuk. Some of them had made maklaks they were working on. We had one, Josie had done a project on cutting up an entire wolf, and then she made a silvix and sini for her sisters, and was able to maybe put them on their carcass. And then she also started learning how to do beadwork, which was one of her personal goals on how to learn. And so we want to target what you want to do. And I had an elderly lady tell me, teach them how to cut up a wolf and wolverine. That's what she said. She said, teach them how to do that because they don't know how. And so that's one of the things, that if you have a wolf or a wolverine that's been hanging on your wall and you want to make something out of it, make ruffs or sini, you know, I teach a class that will show you how to do that. And here's the thing, once you learn, it will never disappear. It will never go away. This is going to be a life skill that you'll be able to use all the days of your life, every winter. Thank you.
Yes. You don't have the red carpet this year.
Thank you. Hey. Oh, also too, there's different, like, you would think that there's only like one stitch that you need to learn to sew, and there's more. And then that, and then you would think that that you would sew only where the leather is on fur, and that's not true. And ask Dana, she'll tell you. Sometimes you have to sew on the fur side. And so those little things that, you know, some of the ladies, they even knew already how to make cookbooks, but they wanted to hone in on how to do it, you know, as one lady said, barrow style. And so just honing in on their skills and sharpening them. And so I just welcome you to take the class so that you can learn and we can pass it on, because especially if you were born Inupiaq or Inupiaq, this is your heritage. This is, you know, I'm passing it on because, you know, these ladies who taught me, they gave it to me for free. And I think you were born with the right to know this. And so I really want you to take advantage. Just dry it out of me and I will pour it out. Okay.
We sure appreciate you, Susan. She's been teaching for years and years with us. So like she said, if you haven't taken her class, and if you've already taken it, take it again. All right, so I will have the Inuit Art Studio students come up. It's a pretty small class, but I think there's only a couple students here. Yeah. So you guys come on up. They've done a number of different projects and working with community, people from the community, teaching their skills. And as you can see, like that whole first table, that's all Inuit Art Studio projects, or most of them are. But I'll have them introduce themselves and I'll have them talk about what they've done.
Good evening, Ulonga Amiaber. My Aka Amiaber used to make these caribou skin masks. So
Yes, we did.
yeah, it was really awesome to learn this process. I used to visit with her, and I would help her thread the sinew because with her eyesight, that was the hardest thing to do. So I'd sit there and I'd thread about 10 to 15 needles, and she'd be so thankful. She'd just be ready to sew. So it was really exciting to make a caribou skin mask. We selected the mold that we wanted to use. And if you don't know, it's a baby doll face that's cut off. And they poke holes in it. So if you see dolls around town with no faces, this is why. So I selected a little doll face, and then we soaked the caribou skin, or we cut the fur off. Most of the fur, you can see on the back, there's still a little bit of fur, but we cut the majority of the fur off and then soaked it with alderwood, right? Alderwood? To give it a little bit of color. And I've heard of people using willow leaves and anarctic grass, tundra water, different kind of modern day teas and traditional teas. And then I sewed it onto the frame and let it dry for a week and cut it off very carefully. And then picked what kind of attachments I wanted. This hair part is actually the tail from the Wolverine. That worked out really well. And then the eyelids or the eyebrows are calfskin. And then I lost the calfskin for the eyelashes, so I borrowed my niece's fake eyelashes. And this is both on there. The other project that we did was making an ulu.
Wow.
And my Appa Luke used to make ulus and carve too, so there's a great feeling of connectivity to my grandparents. It's something I didn't learn from them, but I was aware that they made these and I've seen them do things. So we had Ives Brower and Jonas Assault Senior come in, and they both bought materials. We're gonna pick and choose, and this is one of my favorite colors, this blue, and this is acrylic. So when we were working on this on the sander, it smelled like a nail salon. I also have acrylic nails, and I was really messing them up on the sander. They're all different shapes when I was done with this. But yeah, I've always been intimidated about making an ulu, thinking I'm gonna cut my fingers off or something. But it was really safe. We used a lot of safety items, and it was a great process. They taught us how to trace it and cut it with this horrid looking metal cutter. It was actually quite easy, and shape it. And Ives and Jonas did the hard parts, and we did the rest. So they nailed in these little nails right here to secure these two pieces together, and they had their own patterns. So I used somebody's seal pattern. Can't remember whose that was. But then Jonas brought a whole bunch of different materials for that handle, such as this, and it was a great experience. The funnest nights of my life. Making it ulu, I was really proud. Yeah, I've taken 3 of Jerica's classes this semester, and I really enjoyed them. So, a lot of things my grandparents have done, or people have done since time immemorial. So it's a great feeling of connectivity. I didn't finish my ivory earrings. I need to sand them down, but like one of my best friends, Percy, taught us, and he's rather new to making ivory jewelry. So when you post something, I'm like, I want to buy it. So I got one of his first pieces, and then ended up being in a class where he taught us how to make jewelry, and that was a lot of fun. Because my grandfather used to make ivory jewelry too, so I really enjoyed these classes.
Wow.
We did the same things. We also made the clay punya. So you'll see I made 2 because one cracked. And I have the earrings, but they're in my pocket over there. I'm sorry, I didn't bring them up. I had to hurry up and bring the food, so here's the ulu that I had made. I didn't make the seal shape, and we did painting, we did a lot of other stuff, I think. And then I was just gonna show this. I had originally made a larger face mask, but it ripped, so I improvised. I didn't want to have a ripped space. So I did two different dyes on this. One was the clay from the river in Twinkle, I believe. And then the other was alderwood. So we soaked the alderwood in hot water, and so there were different colors. We had to sample it. And then we did painting in the beginning. I think more was first. So there's the painting. There's the face mask. So this is made out of caribou skin. We took off the hair. The hair is in the back. So, and then we shaped the holes that I showed you. We drilled in the wood. Same technique with the eyes and the nose and the mouth are the main parts. So, and then we use scraps for the rest of the parts.
We gotta get the pictures, so bear with us.
Do you want me to put it down?
You guys use your balloon yet?
They asked if you, somebody asked if you use your Inupiaq yet.
Yeah.
I think it's just, yeah, there's the.
Yeah, so that's the art studio. So the difference between, so Susan's class, they get to choose, they set their goals. In this class, I basically tell them what they gotta do. So, and it's nice that we have like people to come and teach their skills. So we really appreciate like Ives and Jonas and Percy. And we try to switch it up each semester, try to do something different. Huh?
Who does the painting class?
Oh, so it was in the art studio. We had worked with, so Tristan Morgan, her family's from Inupiaq, but she created a video for us. So it was like a tutorial. So everybody got to paint the whalebone arch. Yeah. So I think she lives in Anchorage, but her family's from Inupiaq.
So I think, let's see. I think that was everything that we wanted to cover today.
We're on time. There's a lot of food left over, so I see Tess over there. She's like, there's a lot of food. I think there's a lot of cake, so yeah. Please, everybody take a cake home, like a slice. I think we made them like this big. So please take some dessert and whatever's left over, please. There's tin foil, there's extra plates, you can cover it up. And there's also Ivalu. AEF is hosting an Ivalu making workshop at IHLC, so just down the hallway. If you guys want to go check out how to make Ivalu and how to braid and how they sew the skin boats using that Ivalu. So thank you everybody, Inupiaq, for coming. It makes me so happy that you guys are taking the classes, and please come back in the summertime. We have summer camps and we have more classes in the fall. So we'll see you guys again. Inupiaq. And for those that are on Zoom, thank you for calling in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Hello.
Hello.